Papa Smithy, and all day, we're almost into our 7th hour, I have been joined by John Orange Westbergen. Orange, it's time for the final match of the night.
It's been a very long day, but it's been a lot of fun. We've seen so many exciting matches with a lot of exciting decks, and it's been 7 hours, but I'm still very, very excited about just seeing this final match, because we've been seeing a lot of innovative and new decks that aren't like the most popular.
And I can tell you that from my experience, casting Hearthstone is fun, but the players have done us a really big serve up here. There's definitely been alley-oop potential, because the decks we have seen, the fact there's only been 2 Patron Warriors, the fact there's been Paladins, Mages, in fact both those decks have been in a big supply. We can confirm that tomorrow the winner's match will be Kuno versus Kranich. That's what we'll be seeing tomorrow. But we are left with our losers final from Group B. We are just coming off Taesung, the first seed from Korea, being eliminated. Australia's hopes Deckies did make it through in that matchup in a very close 3-2 win. Fortunately, that handlock really couldn't get the win for Taesung. And now we have our final match of the day. We're going to see the return of New Zealand's FriedChickens that just got pretty much blown out by Kranich against Chile, the Taiwan hopeful that started off strong, and then after that, specifically the regame, really started to make very quick actions. We're hoping that in his time down, he's been able to calm himself down, because it felt like emotions really started to get to him.
Yeah, Chile is probably the person with the most exciting decks from all the people. Here he's playing Druid, Mage, and Warlock, and he's playing an aggressive Druid, if I recall correctly. He's playing a Tempo Mage with Snow Shuggers, and he's playing a Malagos Warlock.
The Malagos Warlock, one of my favorites, and we see Chile on your screen. We saw FriedChicken just before. This guy rattled Kranich. Remember, he was big with the emotes when he won that first game. He had very good lines to play. Even in his losses, he was looking like a very solid player. So I think this is going to be a very even matchup. Chile, when he got that big win in Tempo Mage, he looked great, but then the momentum factor really seemed to be important against Kuno. And I think this is one of those matchups where it's a real coin flip. I cannot tell you which of these two members will be going forward to day 2.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same boat as you. I have no idea who is going to go victorious from this match, and I think it's going to be a very, very close one too. I
mean, the Control Warrior versus the Malagos Warlock, we were talking about that off there. It does sound like it's going to be favored for the Malagos Warlock, so maybe that's one of the side deck choices that might really influence who wins this match. But we're almost ready to go into our 6th and final Conquest Best of 5 of the night. Everyone's looking a bit wary who's going to find out. The last person to confirm their spot in day 2. And one player, whether it's from Taiwan or New Zealand, is going to go home unhappy. So we kick off the day, and there's the Hybrid Hunter. I know you're a big fan of this deck. You made it clear before, but okay, here's a spicy one. Hybrid Hunter versus Tempo Mage.
This is a matchup that is solely decided on the early game, kinda. Usually, like, Mana Wyrm is a really, really, really huge card to have in this matchup. I can't put enough weight on how important having that Mana Wyrm one is.
Look at these cards. We've got high-quality early drops from both sides. There's the first emote, probably not the last from Chile. Starts with the hello. Okay, he's going to lead off really aggressive here.
With the Knife Juggler, he is kind of forced to. If he just goes with Leopard Gnome and coin a Leopard Gnome, it's just a very easy ping and send a Mana Wyrm into one. So he has to take the risk that there's no Flame Cannon or Frostbolt from Chile and just play the Knife Juggler. But as we know, there is a Frostbolt coming from him. Now, Chile had an interesting choice in that turn where he chose between Flame Cannon and Frostbolt. Flame Cannon is like a slightly better against cards like Misha, whereas Frostbolt, whereas Flame Cannon can get bad if your opponent has a follow-up Haunted Creeper, for example. I think I agree in that spot to play the Frostbolt, because you know that you have Mana Wyrm that can start chewing on the Haunted Creeper and clear out the 1/1s and stuff.
And we start doing things like math, right? You start thinking, okay, 4 health targets. Misha Leok.
Yeah.
The only other consideration I can see is that Frostbolt is unique in that it can go face, so it can stop a weapon charge, for example, but I think just with how the math played out, he's going for the more conservative play. He's leaving up the option to clear the Animal Companion on curve, of course not going to be on curve anymore, and now we have the classic battle, Mad Scientist versus Mad Scientist.
Yes. it seems like the mage is winning the early game battle, which is so important. But the thing is, if the players go toe to toe in the early game, the hunter draws a Savannah high main, that is like one of the threats that are really hard for the Tempo Mage to deal with.
Does Tempo Mage ever run a polymorph in the deck?
No, it did way back in the day, but we haven't seen it for quite some time in Tempo Mage, and I would be very surprised if we saw a polymorph from Shilly.
So it's basically the 1/2 mana spells and then the 7 mana Flame Strike, probably one of those, but nothing in between other than a Fireball.
Exactly.
Okay, so Fireball into Flame Strike, obviously it's not a single turn, but there is ways to deal with high main, but the high main on 6, and that's the big point you're making is...
Absolutely.
Is a big factor, and now Arcane Golem got FriedChicken into problems last series. Are you playing it in this situation?
Well, if we're playing Arcane Golem, I would definitely trade with a Mad Scientist, and it didn't. He chose to just opt for a Hero Power instead, which I think I agree with right here. We can set up the Arcane Golem for a future turn instead. I don't feel like we are quite desperate enough yet that we have to play the Arcane Golem here. Even with the hand we're seeing from the Hunter player, it's very important that you just get out the most damage as you possibly can from all of your cards.
Confirming that Freezing Trap is, as we expected, we saw a single Freezing Trap already pop. There's a second one observed. You see the Flame Waker. You are deathly afraid of this card. How
Yes.
much do you invest in getting rid of it? Because you would have to invest your whole turn, and it looks like that's all you can do.
I think that a very possible line, seeing the hand that FriedChicken is holding, it's all burst damage that he can just go for the face.
All right. I mean, the dogs, of course, are beasts, so he does have a lot of burst coming in soon.
With this line of play that FriedChicken is taking, he's saying, I do not care about the board anymore, I'm just gonna kill you with direct damage, my hero power is gonna help me with that, and all the cards in my hand support this game plan.
So that's probably a really astute observation from Chili, is that he freezes the face. He's not going to want to deal with any weapon charges. We know there's no weapons in hand. He's starting the clearing. Water Elemental basically condemns FriedChicken's weapons to be completely a non-factor, but man, there is going to take a couple of turns, but there is so much burst in the hand coming through from FriedChicken. Interesting, though.
Yeah.
Talk to me about this. He's given up an Arcane Golem to Chili.
Yeah, I think he's setting up for lethal next turn, setting up for the Unleash kill command on the turn he has now. I don't know if I prefer to play the Unleash kill command that turn over the Arcane Golem hero power, and next turn you can Arcane Golem kill command instead.
Let's start counting this damage coming through in a counter sense. Remember, Fireball is an 8 damage spell. We're going to get the 2 Flame Waker procs from it as well. He's considering developing Effigy. Does he really feel Chili like he has 2 turns?
It's mostly there are very specific combination of cards FriedChicken needs here to actually kill the mage. I think he actually lost out on quite some damage when he last turn could have went for Unleash plus kill command. But yeah, as the looks of it now, he's a couple of damage short of lethal, and he's... If he clear... Yeah, through the Fireball, it looks like he's dead here.
He's going to look for a trade onto at least the Arcane Golem. What is he going to do with the rest of his hand? Yep, has to clear out a minion. He can't do that. Effigy proc comes through. Wow!
Oh, that's a huge one.
That's a priest maneuver right there.
Yeah.
Resurrect priest is kind of a thing. People have fun with that, but that's definitely the game for Chili.
To be fair, that injured blade was not necessary to win this game, but of course it feels good to know that RNG got to smiling upon you.
Orange, please calm down. It was completely necessary, very important Effigy, even though he had lethal with Fireball. And this is the result of the Hybrid Hunter versus Tempo Mage. The one guarantee you can say about that matchup, Orange, is it's not going 10 turns. It's probably not even going 7.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very decided by what happens in the early game, and then how much burst the Hybrid Hunter can put up, and how much burst actually the Tempo Mage, because when Tempo Mage starts killing the Hunter, it all needs to do it fast to not die to those burst turns that the Hunter does.
And honestly, that was basically Face Hunter versus Tempo Mage because none of those hybrid cards were actually drawn.
Yeah, didn't draw Pilot to Treader, didn't draw Loafer, didn't draw High Main. We did see the freezing traps, but
that 4 damage would have been.
much
Remember,
it.
if there was 2 traps, if they were both explosive, that would have been lethal, I believe.
Yeah, then again, I think he would have just died to the Mana Brim in the early game if those were explosive.
This is a fair point. So the Tempo Mage takes it out. The Tempo Mage feels like the deck. Whenever I see Mage being run in a list, open with it, it can really explode past people. And it's not a deck you want to rely on, but it's a deck that you're comfortable to run out. So Chili, the Taiwan hopeful, the local boy, picks up the first win. FriedChicken going to have to go back to the drawing board. That's Mage out. It's Druid or Warlock for Chili. It's going to be the Druids. He's going to have to leave the Malagos Warlock to find a victory. It's not quite Patron Warrior, but it's another deck that can really do insane things from hand if it's kept unchecked and can really develop the double Dark Bomb, Soulfire combos that are possible. Chili's playing Druid, and Darnassus Aspirant's in the starting hand, so feeling pretty good.
One of the players has the Wild Growth effect, and one of them doesn't have it quite yet, but he finds it, and an Innervate to go with that too. Looking from the starting hands, FriedChicken has a slightly better starting hand, but this could go either way.
So I have a question for you. Like, we've seen a lot of Druid mirrors across the world, right? With Druid's popular, it's basically ever-present. I love watching Druid matchups when they're even, you know, when both players have Wild Growth, both players have Darnassus, when it's not just a mismatch where one player's ramping all day and the other player's kind of watching and wishing he had the enemy player's cards. This is kind of a interesting kind of side question, but is there any advantage? Let's assume ramp is equal. Jesus, it is not. To use to use strong language as he draws into double. He has double Innovate and Darnassus, so we'll wait and see how he decides to play this. And it's probably going to be Druid of the Claw being developed, potentially even in charge form. Yeah,
that's what I was figuring. What do you think about the Druid of the Claw? What form do you prefer her?
I charge it.
You charge it? Yeah, I think I like that too. Just it's vulnerable to Keeper of the Grove, but you know that has to wait one turn to be effective.
That's the key factor. He's coming into turn 3, nothing on turn 3, barring an Innovate play that's off curve. Anyway, there's the Keeper of the Grove.
Keeper.
But it doesn't matter. My original question, though, was going to be, is there any advantage? If you assume that the ramp cards are even, is there any advantage to going first in this matchup?
It's so dependent on the hands. If you have ramp plus a Shade, you want to go second. But if you have a Shredder instead, you want to go first. It's just very dependent on the other contents of your hand.
Speaking of contents, second Innovate comes out. This is where Chili's like, where was my Innovate? Both have now been used. The board pressure's starting. Swipe's going to go down in cost, and although it's only a two card hand, it's feeling pretty damn good about it.
Yeah, this board is so commanding. It's such a commanding lead with the Emperor and the Darnassus that you're not unhappy about how things are developing, that the Keeper of the Grove gets to clear a 4/2 minion.
Now Swipe, not a priority card in the mirror match.
Nah, I think it's totally fine to just swipe here, to not have the 2/2 Darnassus die to the Keeper of the Grove. Just there are no...
And that's why I say it's not a key card, and you also kind of want to keep your Emperor at 5 health, because with access to only 5 mana next turn, there is no way for Chili to clear the Emperor. The other factor, of course, it's only getting discount on 1 card, but that Emperor's looking pretty strong.
Yeah, you don't need discount on cards when you just have a commanding enough board. The Emperor, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that the...
Game's over.
Yeah.
The limb is not required. Keep your limbs all to yourself.
I will. Thanks for that advice.
Thank you. It's my hot tip. Keep your limbs all to yourself, Oranges. FriedChicken basically watched... Sorry, Chili basically watched FriedChicken play Druid this game.
Yeah, Chili looks just as excited as I imagine him being about that game.
And Chili just basically watched his enemy play threat after threat, innovate out all sorts of things. And you thought the first game was fast. The Druid Mirror, when one player just has that advantage in ramp. And remember, both of them had Darnassus in their opening hand. It didn't matter. It was still powered down with just successive draws. The Innovate was the icing on the cake. And now we're all square again.
FriedChicken did some esports things.
He did certainly some esports ramping things. Just ramping things, I'd have to say. There was, I believe, 2 Darnassus and 2 Innovate played in about 4 turns and won the game.
Just enough balance of threats and ramps also. It's just, when Druid gets those draws, there's nothing you could do. Definitely not a game that Chili goes and like feels bad about losing. It's not like he had the opportunity to even make any mistakes.
Yeah, the regame was definitely what set him off in the first series that he played. That was a legitimate frustration because he was in a commanding lead over Druid. When you just watch the Druid get all the cards, no need to feel frustration. There's another game in front of you. You deal with it, and you're back all square. As it's been so often tonight, we've only had one blowout 3-0. Every other game has gone to the 5th game. It's going to be Taiwan's chili versus New Zealand's fried chicken, once again, very shortly. Time to load in. I'm sure we're going to come in soon. Druid off the lineup for chili. Do you just return to it for fried chicken? Do you just hope for a better draw this time? It's the question he's probably pondering.
I think so. That seems fine. With the Druid gone, I can't imagine him being like very afraid of queuing up that Druid against.
So what is he queuing up? He's queuing up against one of Mage or Warlock. It's a Malagos Warlock and the Tempo Mage. Tempo Mage, you said very clearly, is 65-35, so it's not ideal.
He already won with the Tempo Mage
my
against the
apologies.
Hunter, so it's either Druid or Warlock that Chili queues up with here. Yeah, I think that Chili queues up with the Druid, as I said, and then Fried Chicken has the choice between Hunter and Warrior, and I think that you pick the Hunter among those because you expect the Druid to come out from Chile again. And that is a favorable matchup for your Hunter, but it's gotten a lot closer with the introduction of Darkness.
Find out very shortly. 3rd game here, chili versus fried chicken. You are the excellent predictor. We do end up with Hunter versus Druid. Chili just saw fried chicken find all of the ramp. Doesn't have any in his starting hand, but do you mulligan Keeper with the Grove looking for ramp? Seems greedy.
With this kind of hand, when you have none of the Darnassus or Innervate, or Wild Grove for that matter, I think I would mulligan Keeper of the Grove too. I think that those cards are way too important to not mulligan for, and whereas Keeper is a great card, I think you need to mulligan for the cards that come a little bit earlier.
The reality of TGT is that now there are 6 cards out of 30 that you are ecstatic to hold on to or look to draw, and so it just becomes more likely when you mulligan to have that 6 out of 30 or 1 out of 5 chance of finding the ramp. You find the ramp so often. In this case, the Darnassus is going to be answered instantly.
We see a painful draw there with Fried Chicken having his both Freezing Traps in his starting hand. Definitely not what you want to see. Freezing Trap is overall pretty great against Druid, but most of the time all of the time you want them off your Scientist and not actually have to play them naturally.
It's one of those cases where if you end up with a single Freezing Trap after your mulligans against Druid, you're not that unhappy just because they might expend multiple cards and innovate, and you're like, alright, deal with this. Put out a Freezing Trap, but when you see both, and you definitely mulligan it away, and when you see both, you're frustrated. Second Darnassus comes through.
Absolute nightmare here for Fried Chicken, because Darnassus matches up really well against the Freezing Trap. For those that don't know, if you Freezing Trap the Darnassus, it doesn't die, but it just goes back to the hand, so the Death Rattle will never trigger, and you can play it again and gain an extra mana crystal.
And this is the mechanic behind that, is the Battle Cry is activated, the Death Rattle doesn't apply because it hasn't died, it's just been returned. So you get the free mana, you effectively get Wild Growth. Speaking of free, puts down a Taunt, but finally the hybrid nature of Fried Chicken's deck comes together as Savannah Highman is slammed down.
Turn 6 Highman is so strong against Druid,
which
because
ironically has the answer to it.
Yeah, even if this Highman gets in for like.
Wait, no, he doesn't, because the Freezing Trap is developed.
Exactly, he will just not attack with the Druid of the Claw here because he is checked for explosive already. He doesn't know if it's snakes, but it's pretty greedy here to attack anything, I'm pretty sure. So I think he will just Wrath here for 1 and then hold his Druid of the Claw.
Okay, so it sounds like he's just going to go for Cycle.
No, he does it for 3. I guess this is a pretty heads-up play. Oh, and he draws a second Hymen straight from the top. He Wraths for free in case something would happen to the...
This is very hilarious that he, of course, can just throw it out again, or he can Dr. Boom. It looks like he's going to go for the threat instead.
Dr. Boom seems more powerful here. At this point, ideally, as the hunter, you want your opponent to be at like 20 or something, so one high main hit gets very, very threatening. But Druid is still at 30. I don't think a single point of damage going into turn 7 against the hunter, which is, yeah, the hunter is not very comfortable with the position he's in right now.
Let's watch how this match plays out. He could have chosen to trade with the bird bots and force the freezing trap out.
Oh, he is doing that. He's using the Glaive Zuka here.
Just sequencing a bit different than I expected. Okay, so the clean kill once again is denied away.
So now, with this freezing trap up, with no Force of Nature, which is a great way of clearing freezing traps, this is actually looking like FriedChicken can take this game on the back of just getting another Hymen hit and start hitting with that Eaglehorn bow.
It's crazy that, you know, we derided the fact that he had those 2 freezing traps as early as turn 2, but they have been the big factors in this particular matchup, is that he's had the Unleash to put them in these horrible situations where Chili knows exactly what this trap is. He's only ever seen freezing traps come out of this deck, so he knows it's a freezing trap.
I think the thing that decided this is the fact that he drew the second high main on turn 6 after coining the first one.
Druid sometimes has those clean answers to one high main, but when the second one comes out instant, there's just been no chance to refill the hand and find an answer.
Yeah. Let's see what Animal Companion gives us. It's the Leok again. Does a bit less damage than Huffer, but still very acceptable.
Where is he going, though? Because he could theoretically take out this minion if he wants to, but
I would say that Face is the place at this point. You can't really afford to play this this safe. I think that. Oh wait, what? Okay.
Swipe
This is a line of
suddenly.
play, but if I were in FriedChicken shoes, I would have just went full face there, which.
Interesting.
Yeah, which would put me dead to combo, but I think it's a risk that I'm willing to take at that point.
But are you willing to take it in your last best of series before a seat at BlizzCon? That's the question that I guess we won't know the answer to, Orange.
Yeah.
There's a lot on the line for FriedChicken. This is the guy who isn't experienced in tournaments. This is the guy who's surprised to just be here, given that he was the 3rd representative from Australia New Zealand region, comes and represents New Zealand confidently. In general, he's actually had a very aggressive line of play. He switches it around. We don't know if it's nerves, we don't know if it's just playing around the situation, but Freezing Trap is still developed, and there's no clear answer for Chili this turn.
The thing is that you are pretty sure that there's no combo from your opponent, because Force of Nature was such a great play the last turn. So I think I would have just... I'm pretty confident I would put myself there to combo, but I can get behind this line too, although I'm not as big a fan of this as of other plays I could have made, especially with the freezing trap up, which I feel is just now losing a lot of value.
Speaking of the freezing trap, looks like he might just try and freezing trap the piloted Shredder.
Yeah. Don't blame him for that.
Well, he doesn't have any hand at this point. You know, he only has a 1-mana creature behind the Unleash, so he's considering what to remove. I feel like the Spectral Spiders are definitely the most...
Yeah, you don't want to play into a top-deck swipe. Just play it a bit safer like this.
Probably just throw out the Leper Gnome, I guess. At this point, you're kind of looking for something like a quick shot.
One thing I've learned from seeing FriedChicken play Hunter overall today is that him and I played the deck incredibly differently.
The fun thing about Hearthstone is that, you know, same deck, multiple lines of play. Some people comfortable going face, comfortable taking the aggressive line, then accepting their loss if those exact perfect cards come out. Just because over the variance, you know, over a certain amount of games, they won't always have the perfect cards. Where some people just want to grind out the victory, want to ensure that there's no possible lethal coming their way, and it's just the nature of Hearthstone is that people come in with different mindsets.
Absolutely. But now we have to clear with this Force of Nature, which I feel might have been necessary for Burst, and put Chili in a pretty awkward spot. But then again, this Ancient of Lore for healing, and just, you know, play more of a grindy style. With your opponent has no cards in hand,
and that was going to be my point. Is there's no cards in the hand whatsoever. There's no Savannah Highmains coming off the top. I guess there's a Dr. Boom that hasn't been accounted for, but there's no real hand refill mechanics. There's no draw in a standard Hunter deck, barring perhaps a single quick shot. Doesn't feel like double quick shot is a thing anymore. So
we've seen a Glaive Suka from FriedChicken, which most of the time means that there are less quick shots in the deck, because you have to cut something to make room for the Glaive Sukas, and quick shot is usually the one card that gets the cut.
So let's watch this. Looks like it's probably lethal.
Yeah.
Savage Roar is going to be massive burst damage. FriedChicken came close, but the Hunter doesn't pick up a victory. The Malagos Warlock's going to have 2 shots to keep Chile in the tournament.
Yes, and FriedChicken, 1 game away, needs to win with both Hunter and Control Warrior against Malagos Warlock to still be in the road to BlizzCon here.
And you mentioned that that's looking unlikely, at least in the Control Warrior versus Malagos Warlock matchup. You were saying that's pretty heavily favored in the side of the Malagos Warlock. It can trade up, it has those strong cards like the Blackwing Corruptor that can clear the board, and then has the burst as well, despite the fact that the Warrior is going to develop a big health total.
Yeah, the one most significant thing in that matchup is the double big game Hunter, and just that together with the life tap, the Malagos Warlock has so many efficient answers to everything that the Warrior can put out, and eventually you just get outgrinded by the hero power of the Warlock. Probably the matchup, besides like Warrior versus Hunter, where the hero power of the decks actually matter the most.
So mass removal and also mass threats, because of that consistent hand refill,
Yes,
is the biggest factor, but there's multiple ways that deck really lines up well. Potentially game, set, match for FriedChicken. We'll find out if he can live one more game.
Here's the Hunter again. Will it be able to pull out a game, or will it go 0-3 in this series? That is the question. We see Chile with a pretty decent hand here. He chooses to keep the Implosion, but not the anti-heal bot. This was something I did when I started playing Malagos Warlock. I never kept the heal bot in this kind of matchup. Against Hybrid Hunter, I think I agree with mulliganing the heal bot, but against something like a more Face Hunter, I could definitely see myself keeping it.
And of course, he has a lot of information about this Hunter deck. He's seen it played previously, he's seen it played in the previous game as well, so has a lot of information, so made that choice.
This is a great hand for Chile. He has the Dark Bomb leading up into Coin, strong 4 mana play, and then follow it up with a 4 mana play. He's like very dependent on what happens on FriedChicken's next turn if you want the Implosion or Twilight Drake. At this point, you pretty much know that FriedChicken is only playing double Freezing Trap, because that's all you've seen throughout all his matches.
I guess we haven't seen both those traps be exploded, and then a Mad Scientist died. 100% confirm it, but we're basically 95 to 100% sure there's just the double Freezing Trap.
Oh, Twilight Garden is a pretty significant pickup.
Which do you lead with? Do you lead with the Twilight Drake or the Twilight Guardian? Because let's say the worst case comes to be. Let's say one of them's silenced.
There's definitely like an argument for the Implosion too, because there's a trap up for your opponent. But personally here, I think I would lead with the Twilight Guardian, just put it up as a wall, look for a little bit better of an Implosion target, and then try to trigger the Freezing Trap with one of my imps later in the game.
It's one of those situations where, for some reason, if it's silenced and it gets through the Freezing Trap, it's still a 2/6 body rather than the 4/1 that's so easily dealt with. So I do follow that line.
Also, if you play the Twilight Drake, you don't have a Dragon in hand for Twilight Guardian next turn.
Smart man.
And speaking of good Implosion targets, or potentially devastatingly bad Implosion targets, here's the Piloted Treader.
I guess it depends which side you're on, as 2 out of 3 times this will roll high. Needs it to roll high onto
66%.
Well,
and he gets there.
Gets there exactly.
And there's a Flame Tongue Totem that does some things together with this Eaglehorn Bow on the following turn, I think.
But
wait. Oh my God.
That is a massive joy. You can see FriedChicken. He understands how massive that is. Here we go. Wow.
That is disgusting.
You could not ask for more than that.
And he gets the buff on the Flame Tongue Totem too. This is... Oh, that was...
Shaman's dream of the battle totem.
Yes.
That's what will happen in the future. You need to to console yourself with, because in the future, when Mistcaller finds a way into decks, you're going to be seeing Battle 1-4 Flame Tongue Totems. This is a thing of the future, not a thing of the past.
I fear that day.
That day is when finally Shaman ascends to tier 3 or 2, maybe.
He throws out the Abusive Sergeant here and the Blackwing Technician instead of only the Twilight Drake. I'm not sure how I feel about it though, because, you know, you use more food for the Glaive Suka, and your opponent still keeps to, like, just push damage on you and develop a high main. This is looking really grim for Chili.
And the pressure has been unrelenting from
Yes.
FriedChicken. He's never been able to stabilize double heal bot, all the burst damage we're talking about. None of that matters when you're just, you know, so far behind board on turn 6. No way to get back into it. No sign of the Hellfires. Could even be double Hellfire. It's been stalled in so many ways, and the Backwing Corrupt is pretty easily dealt with as well. So, in a bit of life support is Chili, really looking for some swing card to come off the top, because tapping is looking like an increasingly risky line of play, as there's a minimum of 6 to 7 damage coming in this turn.
Yes. Leok hits the board. I'm pretty sure he's opening himself up a little bit to something like Mortal Coil plus Hellfire, but it would not be like one of my bigger concerns.
Are you
at
really
this point.
opening yourself up to Mortal Coil Hellfire when that's going to cause 5 damage to the face if he plays this stuff on him?
Yeah, Hellfire is just gonna kill him.
Yeah.
So that is, yeah, beautiful played by FriedChicken.
He's opening himself up to a game 5 is what he's opening himself up to.
That is true.
Will be a fitting end to the day if we did go to all 5 games in this series between Chili, the local favorite from Taiwan, and FriedChicken, the journeyman ladder player who was surprised to find himself here in Taiwan fighting for a spot at BlizzCon. Waiting to see how this plays out. That Mortal Coil was interesting. And he concedes.
Yes. But now is the interesting matchup. Now it's Malloc versus Warrior Control, which is even if
Give me a number.
a number.
Not your phone number, but give me the win ratio expectations between Control Warrior, which you say is the big dog in this matchup, the underdog, versus the Malloc.
I'm gonna go safely with saying 65-35, but I want to say 70-30.
Wow, the fact that you're even considering the 70-30 advantage says that this is a very one-sided matchup. The Hunter was definitely favored, but powered through in that particular matchup. Is there a draw? Is there a card for the Control Warrior that can really get him into a lead that he can grind out this game? Because you made it sound like, in most cases, the Malagos Warlock's going to win. What is the Warrior looking for?
There are ways. Like, if the Warrior can get a lot of value early with their weapons and then get... I'm saying aggressive, but with the weapons, and then get something like a Sylvanas that can just hit him repeatedly, get him to a life total, low life total early, and threaten something like Gromash, so the Malagos Warlock has to use his answer kind of awkwardly. That's one way for the Warrior Control to win, to get aggressive and try to decide it in the mid-game.
All answers going to be on everything on the line. Last game, who will stay in the tournament? Will it be Chili? Will it be FriedChicken? We're going to find out right now. Malagos in the starting hand. Probably going to mulligan that. People talk about potentially holding on to it for opening up Dragon Synergy. Where do you stand on Malagos in the opening hand?
I mulligan it. I try to look for things like Blackwing Technician in this matchup for sure. Just early threats that...
Speaking of early threats, there they are for the Control Warrior, the Alex Strasser and the Gromash.
One card that is also like a big factor in this matchup is that the Warrior Control can potentially get to 0 to stick, and that's one of the ways that it can win the matchup too. Zero is a very big card in the matchup.
No chances of a Siphon Soul you're expecting. I guess the Owl might take a bit of the wind out of the sails, but not much good removal.
Do you know what's even spicier than Siphon Soul?
Oh, I'm ready for some spicy.
Rend Blackhand.
Rend Blackhand in a Malagos Warlock. Now, we've seen this in Dragon Priest, it's definitely come in, but really, are we going to see a Rend Blackhand? Is there a chance?
I doubt it, but I'd love it to see it.
We'll see a Chillmore. There was Chillmore in this deck, you'll remember.
Card is really good. Just like extra dragons for this deck is so strong.
Well, there's plenty of dragons. Chillmore's in the hand, so there's definitely going to be synergy for these cards. Oh boy, that's a nice clean clear on the Twilight Drake, but
yeah, we even have the double shield slam here, which is what you need. Like you need these answers to the Twilight Drakes early on, but then you also need to put up some pressure yourself, because going for the long game, just training 1-for-1 is not going to work against the hero power.
if he wants to develop a threat, the coin will have to come out to play it this turn. So Sludge Belcher, not exactly huge pressure, but finally develops a minion.
It's a good, just getting an initiative on the board first, really important. Good play. Double Blackwing Technician here is going to be a beating though.
Even if he chooses to ignore them, we know the Abusive Sergeant's in hand.
Yeah.
Do you use the Abusive Sergeant liberally in this matchup, or are you really holding on to it for that BGH combo? You have both in hand, so...
No, you can use it very liberally just to trade with Sludge Belcher here. The thing is with Big Game Hunter that you're playing 2 of those, and this is one of the matchups where both your Big Game Hunters are very likely to find targets.
Oh boy, we're going to have both of these Sludge Belchers, at least their initial forms, fall down. The first one to the Blackwing Corruptor, and then I guess we'll get to road test what you were talking about. Will he use the Abusive Sergeant to clear with the other Blackwing Technician? That's the only question we don't have the clear answer to.
There is some merit to life tapping here, just because, as I said, the life tap ability is like key in this matchup, so you want to use it. You want to get it in as much as possible, and I think that this is a pretty beautiful turn to get your life tap.
That's the life tap you talk about. Now he's dealing with a lot of board power. You know, this is the reality of these Dragon decks. You get so much value, so much bang for your buck if you are holding on to the Dragons. And the Dragons in hand meant the Blackwing Technicians, the Blackwing Corruptor, both found massive value. And at 7 mana, not an obvious turn leaping off the hand for FriedChicken.
Yeah. So, certainly an interesting turn coming up here.
Full Taskmaster probably have to be used for the 1 damage. Battle Cry means he doesn't have the 12 damage reach for the Grommash that he's had in hand since the first turn. Remember, Alex Straza, Grommash, Brawl, all in the starting hand. Removes 1 threat, but knows that he will not be able to take another minion out with the Sludge Belcher. Will die to more trades or maybe something else coming from the hand. There's the Ooze.
Ooh, there's an Azega Swampus too. A really important card in the matchup, because also one way you lose if they set up lethal when you're 18 with Death Spite and Grom.
I'd actually like you to confirm my suspicions on this. Now, there are a couple of reasons I think that we see Ooze over something like a Harrison when we're talking about Warlock decks. You know, most obviously, it's the fact that you can fit it in a lot of situations, right? It's only the 2 mana. But to me, one of the big things for Warlock is that sometimes drawing those extra cards puts you in awkward spots because you're so particular about your hand size as a handlock. You're always looking to be between 8 to 10 cards. That maybe just the fact that the Ooze doesn't give that card draw when you already have reliable card draw makes it not as big of a factor. Do you think that's a consideration, or is it just the cost?
No, you're on the right track. Why you use Acidic Swampus in Warlock over Harrison is because...
Wait, just to hold you off there, nice play coming through. Does actually use the Zombie Chow for the Shadow Flame. Of course, no healing coming through whatsoever. Really nice play, but coming back to that point...
Okay, so you use Acidic Swampus because Harrison is used in classes where the card draw is necessary, because you draw cards from the Harrison units. But in Warlock, you don't need a card draw because you already have your life tap ability for that, so... Then you just want a less clunky card. So it's more of that you don't need it because you already have your hero power more than that you will already have a lot of cards. But like,
it's a little bit of both, right? It's cleaner. Your hand size is always a big consideration. As you mentioned, life tap, it's right up there in terms of tools. Speaking of tools, use the Grommash just for removal. Now it's gone as a potential burst target.
Yeah.
We were talking about ways for the Control Warrior to grind out a win. It's weird to be at 35 health and be hating life, but it's running low on those win conditions already.
Absolutely. Seeing how that Grommash is used, I think that this Ysera will be like the... It feels weird to say, but will be like his last thing to rely on to win this game. And right now we see Shilly with just a strong enough board to deal with the Ysera via combat if it comes down.
And you look, the Ysera aggressively is doing 2 damage. It's hardly a big battle cry. It's still an 8/8 body, but there's already a big board, as you mentioned, that can just trade into the Ysera. What else is he going to do? I mean, you could Brawl, I guess, but it's hardly a high-value hand. It's 4 minions, but it's 4 minions that together cost just 11 mana, so not really many good turns. You could just plump down Ysera and pray for Ysera Awakens.
Yeah, and like even Ysera Awakens, because like it will be like a reactive kind of game, and you will just run out of cards as the warrior control at this point. I think that it's a relief for Chile to see the Ysera come down here. Oh, wait, what?
Yeah, he saw the Ysera. Doesn't care.
Oh, I disagree with this line of play. He's probably gonna owl this era, but I feel like this is one of the few ways you lose the game. What if your opponent got Ysera Awakened from this Ysera, then you're just straight up dead right here. If you just deal with this via combat and then grind FriedChicken out, I don't think you can possibly lose. But leaving that Ysera on board is certainly very, very risky.
And look, Chile, when put in positions, has taken the aggressive line. That has been, you know, in some situations that's helped him out, but it seems more consistently that has been at his own cost. And we speculated that perhaps that was about the spot he was in terms of just having that unfortunate regame in his first series.
Yeah.
The dream comes through, gets rid of the taunt, starts to develop more of a board again, and we know the Alexstrasza in hand is starting to find more and more value now that the heal bot's pumped him up to 23 health.
Yes, absolutely. It's if he gets like a nightmare from this Ysera, it's definitely that he will just like OTK Chile with the Alexstrasza.
Well, his nightmare is sadly a Laughing Sister.
Yeah.
So few matchups where that's what you're really looking for is the Laughing Sister.
Yeah, I can't really think of like any matchup really where you actively want to get a Laughing Sister.
Miracle Rogue, okay?
Sure. But then again,
Ysera Awakens is still
Ysera Awakens is way better than the other dream cards that you get.
Also, Miracle Rogue, since the Miracle changes, specifically to Gadget Zan and Leroy, is certainly not much of a thing. That's a nice roll.
There we go. Also lets him use the Mortal Coil on Ysera and clear the Shield Maiden.
Or clear the Acolyte of Pain. Both
Yeah.
of them are options.
Absolutely. We'll see what he goes with. I think that you just want to remove the high power minion here and silence the Acolyte.
Seems like he's going to follow your line of play.
Yeah, like all of a sudden he's going for this reactive line of play that I want him to go for a little bit earlier. Yeah. Oh, wait, or not. Or he is. He does a little bit of... I don't know, I think that Chile's line of play is kind of inconsistent, and it does, like, one turn he does the aggressive line, one turn he goes for the controlling line, and it's a bit weird to me.
Both players new to the competitive scene, both of them feeling the pinch a little bit. Clears out the board, loses the 5/5 body, but can reload with the Laughing Sister, which he fits in because of its cheap mana cost. Great job, Laughing Sister.
You did it.
You fit in.
An Implosion here, pretty good after the brawl. Also can play one of the Twilight Guardians again.
And now he's back at this 16 health life total, which, you know, Alexstrasza doesn't look tasty whatsoever. What will the roll be? 4 again.
Real esports champion.
He might be a literal esports champion if he wins this game. He'll still be in this tournament, so...
Absolutely. Still has a shot at BlizzCon.
Certainly has a massive shot at BlizzCon as the Warriors not putting out any threats whatsoever. Acolyte purely a draw mechanic that you want to be placing in other situations. Still at a very healthy life total.
I don't want to be the one to blow my own horn, but...
Okay, blow that horn. You're doing it. Come on, go ahead.
This is just what I said. He's going to grind the game out. At some point, it's going to be Warrior with like just 1 to 2 cards in hand, and the Warlock is going to sit on everything.
You know what the scariest thing is, Orange? He hasn't felt pressure to use any of those Dark Bombs.
No.
Thoris is going to come in, get massive value. Second brawl, double brawl is very common in Control Warrior right now. What does he play?
Yes, second brawl there is certainly like one of the only things that could keep him somewhat in this game, but then again, there are just too many threats left. Like, you still have an Emperor and a Malgus in that deck that you have to deal with somehow, even if you brawl here and an Imp survives.
Is it time for the Kit Kat special, Armorsmith into brawl? Bring it back.
Possibly.
I mean, what's his other play? He's not going to pass the turn.
Oh, no, definitely not. I think that Armorsmith brawl might be what you do here.
Well, he's going to go for what is affectionately known as the Kit Kat special. He predicted that Armorsmith always wins brawls. We mentioned he's not going to pass the turn. He is at a very high life total. It's just, what is the card coming off the top? James, maybe the Baron Geddon is the card he's looking for, but of course won't be able to combo that with Execute. until the turn after, so not really clear what the big trump card is if he doesn't go for this brawl play now. He's letting the rope go down. What will he choose to do? He's going to go just purely for the brawl.
Let's see what happens. What survives?
Once a 1-1 is not going to get it.
Guardian.
It's the Twilight Guardian, the 3/6 body, the sturdiest of all of them. There's some more direct damage. He needs a discount. Doesn't find one.
Yeah, there are still Emperor, it's double Asher Drake left in Achilles deck. There are so many things.
Yep, there's a Chomor.
Yeah.
Because why not?
Throw it out there. That's the first out of 4 weapons in Fried Chicken's deck that is drawn.
And let's go back to your horn that you were tooting. You talked about the importance of weapons, and he's found none of them.
Yeah, that is the first, and this is not really where you want to draw it.
Well, there's a Thorison.
Yeah, if you want a full burst with the Soulfire double Dark Bomb, you have to draw the Malagos before playing out the Tarzan, but it doesn't look like that.
I mean, as a Drake into double Dark Bomb Soulfire sounding like a lot of damage on its own. That's already 13 damage. Is he at all intimidated by the Alexstrasza? There's no dream cards left. If he's been keeping track, he knows there's no dream cards that he saw. Both of them used.
He's deciding to use the BJH after all. He was thinking of just trading into Shilma. Because actually here, with that with an execute on the Shilma, this is gonna clear most of Shill's board that he built up himself.
So he's not dead on board. He can Dr. Boom into hero power, but he is more than dead in hand.
Yes.
Chile, 100% will be staying in this tournament. Taiwan's second representative. Australia and New Zealand came with 2. It was Deckies and Fried Chicken. Deckies made it through by the skin of his teeth.
Wait. These boom bots could screw things up.
All right, let's watch for the boom bots.
But no, it's still lethal with double Dark Bomb Soulfire.
I was trying to make it exciting, but you're right. There's so much direct damage. Australia and New Zealand came with 2. Fried Chicken will have to go home. His unlikely run stopped in the group stages on the first day here. Soulfire for the lethal. Goodbye, Emperor Thorison. Didn't even need you.
Yes.
And Chile, Taiwan will have 2 representatives, not necessarily at BlizzCon, but at least fighting for BlizzCon tomorrow.
Yeah, big congrats to Chile. I'm really excited to see him go through. He has brought some really interesting and innovative decks to such a high stakes tournament. You need to have a lot of courage and a lot of knowledge about the game to do that, and I'm super happy to get to cast him tomorrow too.
You're going to have to send out a lot of kudos. We've already got a Shaman player booked in for tomorrow. We've got Malagos Warlock. Control Warrior couldn't get the job done, but it's been great to see all these different decks with different levels of viability compared to the conventional wisdom come out and do great things.
Yes, absolutely. It's been a really fun day today with a lot of great matches.
It's been a long, fun day. So many different decks in play. What was your highlight? Was it the Shaman? The Shaman was, I think, a highlight for many.
Yeah, one of the highlights was definitely, especially the Shaman versus Druid game that Ping Ping Ho played. It was so great, so much back and forth, really exciting to watch. To me, it's also Chile bringing the Malagos Warlock is also one of the big highlights to me. I just love seeing that deck play out and having someone bring it to this kind of tournament.
Let's confirm the results, though, before we sign off. Taesung, straight sets out, lost to Nilio 2-3. In fact, took both his games to 5 matches, but it wasn't enough. Ping Ping Ho, easily the only person who had anything other than a 3-2, dispatched Deckies in straight sets, and has booked his match. Nilio versus Ping Ping Ho, the guy who seems to have mastered Warrior, Warlock, Druid, the standard decks, against Ping Ping Ho, who basically in every deck has different tech, whether it was the Living Roots Druid that was looking more aggressive, whether it was, of course, the Shaman. This guy had something new in every deck. That's going to be an excellent match. Speaking of the other side of the bracket, it was Fried Chicken who went down in straight sets. First to Kranish, then to Chile. Kuno versus Kranish is an interesting one. I feel like despite that match, I feel like we don't really have a great grasp on Kuno as a player. But Kranish, man, he looked good.
He did really well in his first match, Kuno. I like this play and the decks he brought. Kranish, just a big favorite in the whole tournament. Also winning his first match pretty convincingly. I'm I have a hard time seeing Kranich not go through to BlizzCon tomorrow. That's my bold prediction.
And I love overarching stories, and it's such a juicy story for Kranich to get his chance at the repeat, to actually fuel the words he gave. If you didn't know, in the interview after he qualified for this tournament, he said that his goal this year was to go one better than last year. One better than last year is the final of BlizzCon. So those are big words, and for Koreans who are usually so modest, that was a big proclamation. But he backed it up with his play today.
Yeah.
And in general, we saw some excellent games. Our field of 8 has gone down to 6, but tomorrow we will decide all 4 representatives from APAC that will qualify for BlizzCon. Tomorrow is the big day. We'll still have matches on Saturday.
Yep.
We will still have prize pool being decided. But tune in tomorrow. On behalf of Orange, my name is Christopher Papa Smithy Smith. We saw some excellent games today,
Yes.
and we are done. But we will be back tomorrow to find out who's going to BlizzCon from the Asia Pacific region.